Good morning, Jimmy Castro team. I hear a lot of you are starting to get listings, so I just wanted to pop in and share some winning tips and tricks that work for me. Also, I made some updates with my listing presentation book that I'd like to share with you as well. All right, so going into your listing presentation, you should know that the seller bottom line only wants to know three things. One, how much is their home worth? Two, how much is this going to cost? And three, how long is this going to take? So always be prepared to answer those three questions walking in the door. So I always have a technique and strategy every single time I go into a listing presentation to set myself up for success, right? That's the plan. So I always have the same procedure every time I go in. So when I first walk into my listing presentation, I ask them, please, would you give me a tour of your home, point out any upgrades or highlights or any problems that you might have had with the home as well. So while we're on the tour, I always make it a point to ask them, so how much do you think your home is worth in today's market? That question will be able to give me a position of being able to gauge how I'm going to lead the conversation moving forward. Every time I ask that question, the sellers always answer it in three ways. One, I have no idea what my home is worth. Two, they have a low number. Or three, it's a high number and it's unrealistic. So if I get answer one and two, I got something I can work with here. But if they answer in a number that's unrealistic, then in my mind right away, I'm starting to think how I'm going to navigate this conversation to help them understand that overpricing their home in today's market, even if it's a seller's market, is not the best plan. So moving forward, after we do a tour, I say, is there somewhere where we could sit down and talk further? Once we sit down, if I haven't asked them the question of what they think their home is worth in today's market, then that'll be the first question I ask them once we sit down. If we are out the gate not in line with the number, from there I'll decide what I'm gonna do. If I feel like they're just seeing what realtor's willing to say some magical high price that they need to hear, I might decide to just hand them my book and say, hey, give me a call when you're realistic and ready to really sell this home. But if I feel like the conversation is still going strong, that I still have a chance to close this, then I'll continue on with my listing presentation book. So before I even jump in this, we've already had that convo about price and what I'm thinking in terms of price. So with my listing presentation book, all I get is a binder with clear slots, some clear pages, and a folder for the middle. So let's jump into this bad boy. So I print out my presentation from the Mac Center in the Design Center. If I can't get a picture of the front of their home, I'll go to Google Maps, and you can capture a picture that way. Ultimately, the best idea would be to do a drive-by from their home and get a picture so the quality will come out better. You could say the quality is not so good here. Okay, so moving along, when you first jump into my listing presentation book, like I said, sellers want to know how much are they going to get, how long is this going to take, and how much is this going to cost. So I always like to jump right into timelines so they can get an idea of how this is all going to play out. When they look at the contract, when they watch the TV shows, it seems like a lot. I simply like to pull out the most important bullet points of the contract with times and terms and just simply go over this is what a 30-day escrow is going to look like and what you can expect. From there, I like to talk about how much is this going to cost them and what their takeaway is going to be. This specific client is going to buy and sell, so I briefly go over what the fees are going to look like. A lot of agents like to use the closing estimate that you can get from Title, which you certainly can. It's very professional and looks nice. In my experience, though, every time I whip out that closing estimate statement, every seller gets these weird, crazy eyes like they're overwhelmed with the numbers. So I like to break down the numbers like this just to make it look as simple and friendly as possible. I feel like some of the paperwork and things that we have overcomplicates things and intimidates the sellers. And I feel like if they feel like it's overwhelmed or too much, they'll start to lock down. And I don't want them to feel like that. I want them to feel like this is easy, this is under control, we've got this. So moving from there, on the first page of my book, I have all the contracts that I want filled out and signed right away right here. So moving from there, I've got this beautiful color page that shows our number one objective is to sell your home for the highest amount in the shortest amount of time with the smoothest transaction possible. I love to start with this page because the color pops, and this is as simple as I want it to be. This is 3 things. So moving on, I like to jump into property information. You could see, there's always this part that starts to talk about value, which I think is important. And then next again, we talk about value. And I always really like to have this discussion with the sellers that say 80% of buyers today are gonna have a loan. So the property appraising is very important. Obviously, it's my position to set them up for success. And if the buyer's willing to pay over what we think the home is worth, we'll do what we can to have them sign off on appraisal and things like that. Obviously, that's another conversation. Anyway, so I just really want them to see that the numbers I'm showing them are the same numbers that the appraiser is going to look at. Not Zillow, not Trulia, not Realtor.com. These numbers pulled from the public records. Alrighty, so moving on, I like to go in to say how professional we are and amazing. So in this little middle section here, I have the disclosures. You could do the disclosures online with Glide, or you can have them filling out. Depending on my clients will depend on how I have them do the disclosures. These specific clients, doing it by hand is what will be best for them. So I'm gonna have them fill these out and pick them up in a week. And then on this page, what we do as real estate agents, it's a million things. I put together a 184 point checklist, what I'm going to do from the client from start to finish, from pre-marketing to listing to in the middle to the end. So I always say, please go over, take a look so you can get an idea of all the amazing things that I'm going to do to take care of you through this entire process. Alrighty, so moving on, this is where I really start to pitch Remax and my team. In addition to being awesome, I'm also on an incredible team and the number one company here in town. So I really want to push that, and I always tell the sellers, like, this part sounds a little pitchy, but I just really want you to understand the value that you're getting here. You really are getting the best, and every real estate company says they're the best. Well, here are the numbers that show we are number one, and we are not just going to outreach locally, but globally. So we're going to do everything we can to get your property in front of as many people as we can to get you the most price. And our buyers aren't just coming from locally. We've got buyers from all over the world. So, and then I move on to say, yes, we're going to get you the most exposure on all the top real estate sites, other promotions that I'm going to do in terms of marketing, all the stuff you can get on the Mac Center. But I like to go over this with them because I want them to understand the value that I'm going to bring to the table. I'm not just someone that's going to have the listing agreement signed up and then go to my desk and kick my feet up and call it a day. So, and this is the new part of my listing presentation that I added that I really like. So I like to tell my sellers this is the part of the book that becomes a manual and that will help you keep on task with everything that you need to do. So I've been able to find all these really great to-do lists. So this is just a home seller checklist that just goes on to declutter, clean, this, that, all the things a seller should do. I've walked out of a listing presentation so many times, and then the sellers are like, what did she say? So yes, so now I've got all the lists So anytime we get to the point of the transaction, boom, here's the list, some things for you to think about and consider doing before whatever's going on in the transaction. So this is a packing up and moving in list. 1 month before you move, 2 weeks before you move, 1 to 5 days before you move, all the things they should consider doing. This is fantastic stuff. And the sellers, so far my overall response from sellers is they love these checklists. And then this goes on, what should I do to prepare for photos and shootings or photos and showings? So just a beautiful, fabulous list that keeps them on top. So we're doing everything to be number one. What should I do to prepare for inspections? So boom, here's just a breakdown of all the things that they need to do. It's closing time. What should I do? Another fabulous list. And then these sellers are going to sell and buy. So here I have a little of everything they should now think of as a buyer. I'm ready to buy a home and choose you as my realtor. Where do we go from here? And then boom, boom, boom. Just a little something for them to consider. Because I feel like no matter what I say from these listing presentations, they might hear 10% of what I say. All they care about, like I said, are those 3 things. How much am I going to make? How much is this going to cost? And how long is this going to take? So like I said, I don't want to overwhelm them. And I want this to be as easy and as simple as possible. So, just to wrap up my listing presentation book, I show them, these are our local guidelines and rules for showings for listing buyer agents and sellers. So we briefly go over that. And then this is just a seller's handbook from Escrow that just goes on with more information if for whatever reason they want to know more. Okay, everybody, so that is my listing presentation book and some tips and tricks that I use to help me navigate and win the listing. Have a great day, everybody. Go kick some booty and talk to you soon.